Hey everybody, and welcome back to FSI DFS. I'm McKinley 412. Today we're looking at this early slate on Saturday. One quick note, there will not be a preview video for Sundays moving forward. NFL just is the king of all sports in America, so it absolutely tanked everything for us. So we're just not even going to bother doing the Sunday preview videos, but we will be right back with it on Monday. So this early slate, it's small. It's pretty straightforward. All things considered, pitching is pretty gross. Again, all things considered. But I think that there's pretty much a clear path to cash and to GPP. The issue that we are having today is DK is down. Earn your error page. I'm sure some other people got this as well. I'm not the only one. I talked to some of the other coaches at FSI, and they also stated that they are getting the same error message. So DK, hopefully you can get it together here before all the college football and all that starts later on today. So here we go. Bieber, I'm going to be using my phone actually to kind of get some of the pricing. So it's going to look a little bit weird, but you're here for the content, not for the looks. So Shane Bieber up at the top, 10.7K. He is by far the most expensive pitcher. Singer is only 9.2, so a 1,500 gap between the top two pitchers. He's going up against Minnesota, so like, Minnesota's in a big playoff push right now, trying to just win that Central Division. But Cleveland, I mean, they're the team that they're competing against. So Bieber, he's going to probably be on his A game. I would expect him to be on his A game. He's got your best floor. He's got your best ceiling on the entire slate. In cash games, 10.7 price tag, jam them in. Doesn't matter. There's enough value on this slate that 10.7K is not going to burn you at all. I have Berrios ranked next. He's 8.1. He's the third most expensive, but he's still only 8.1K compared to Singer's 9.2. Singer is going up against Boston, which is a decent-ish, tough-ish matchup. Boston, they have been doing better. They did not do well last night. I will fully say that. That was quite a disappointment, but I still think that Boston, their implied run total from Vegas is close to 5, so they're expecting them to score some runs here. So I do have Singer a little bit lower than Berrios just because of that price gap between the two. Berrios, he gets Baltimore. So Berrios, we know of his kind of like boom bust mentality. He's got high strikeout upside. He can hit that 7, 8, 9 strikeout kind of games. But he can also have those 2, 3 strikeout games and allow 3, 4, 5 earned runs. So he certainly has that boom bust. I'm not going to really be playing with him in cash too much. I'm probably going to be going over to Rogers here. But Bieber and Berrios, 1-2 in that top tier. If you even can consider 8.1K a top tier salary. Hudson for St. Louis, 8.1K. I honestly don't really want much of him here at all. I was thinking, honestly, of putting him in the fade category, going up against Cincinnati. But, Cincinnati, they're not too terrifying, but still, I don't really want much of Hudson at all. In that mid-tier, Trevor Rogers, he has been, doing great the past couple of starts. He's got 18, 20, and 25 DK points. His strikeouts rate in those 3 games has been phenomenal. So, in the past, we've seen that he can be a solid MLB pitcher. Just kind of hasn't shown up at all this season. But maybe, something's clicking. Maybe he can figure it out. He's getting Washington as well. So at 6.9K, Trevor Rogers, I think, is going to be like a very popular SP2, especially in cash games. So that Bieber Rogers combination is going to be pretty popular. And it's going to leave a lot of salary on the plate for you. I think it's around like 4,000 remaining for your bats. And like I said, there's enough value on the slate. You don't really have to worry too much about salary. Rich Hill for Boston going up against KC. He's had some great games lately. He's had some awful games lately. I think he's been more of a boom bust pitcher than Berrios has even been. So he's just GPP only going up against Kansas City. And then Eric Fede for Washington going up against Miami. This is more so the matchup than anything. As a pitcher, I don't really want much of him at all. This is more like if you're going to be building 150 lines and you want exposure to everybody. Outside of that, I'm not really too interested in Fede here. Cheap guys, Varland and Wesneski. I think these are really 2 intriguing plays. They're 2 guys that are coming up, higher prospects. Varland already played a game. He went up against the Yankees. He went 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. And that's kind of what we were. I mean, we weren't expecting it against the Yankees. But, his minor league numbers, he's a high strikeout guy. He's a solid prospect. So He's going up against Cleveland. They don't strike out a whole lot as a team, but still, he's a very cheap play. I think he can make for a great GPP pivot at 6.6K right off of Rogers, who's at 6.9. Wisniewski on the other side, well, not on the other side, but he's also at 6.5K. He's on his third start. His first start, he had 30 DK points. He went 5 innings, no earned runs, 8 strikeouts. Second game against San Francisco didn't go nearly as well, but he's kind of like Varland in that he had a high strikeout rate in the minors, so maybe he can transfer that into the majors here and have a solid start. He's going up against the Rockies as a right-handed pitcher, and the Rockies can't hit anybody but left-handed pitchers in Coors, and now they're not in Coors, and it's not a left-handed pitcher. So I think he's a fine GPP play if you want to go down cheap and pivot off of Rogers and Varland. Looking into the bats, I have the Chicago Cubs as the top bat stack on the slate today. The wind is blowing out at Wrigley. I think it's like around 15 miles an hour. So you got some weak pitchers in Urania, or a weak pitcher in Urania for sure. And the value with Chicago, I think that they're going to be your top stack on the slate today. Some names that that you want to be targeting for Chicago: Zach McKinstry, only 2.1K. He has been doing great lately. He's got 2 home runs in his past 4 games. He's hit 19 or more DK points in 3 of his past 5. Gets a nice lefty-righty matchup. The winds are blowing out. Urania is a terrible pitcher. He's going to be batting possibly leadoff. So I think he's going to be a very, very chalky, very popular play. McKinstry at just 2.1K. Other Cubs guys that you could be targeting: Fremont Reyes. He's got fantastic numbers, even going up against right-handed pitching. He's only 2.6K in the outfield. And another outfielder that I do like is Ian Happ. Ian Happ has been hitting the ball very well. Hitting the ball very well as of late. So throw him into your lineups. I think McKinstry, Reyes, Happ, like 3-man mini stack for Chicago is a great start to your lineups. You compare Chicago with St. Louis. St. Louis, they have a whole lot of great bats. St. Louis is going up against Mike Minor, a lefty. We don't like Minor. He's not a great MLB pitcher anymore. St. Louis, I know they've let us down a couple of games in the past year, but still, it's St. Louis. Their like all-righty lineup can absolutely mash left-handed pitching. So I do expect them to kind of get back on the groove here today. First base, you have the dreaded, is it Goldschmidt? Is it Pujols? Which one do you want to play? You have the salary to get up to Goldschmidt on this slate, especially if you go with Rogers as your SP2. But maybe you don't go Rogers as your SP2 and you want to throw in Pujols, as your first baseman. Totally fine with that. They're just solid all around. St. Louis is. Arenado, you can't go wrong with him. Tommy Edman, can't go wrong with him. Paul DeJong, can't go wrong with him. O'Neill. I mean, there's just so many great St. Louis bats that you could be turning towards on this slate today. But I think a Chicago Cubs St. Louis Cardinal stack is going to be a really popular, well, for me, it's going to be a popular combination, especially in cash games. GPP route, I'm actually going to be mixing and matching the Toronto Blue Jays and the Cleveland Guardians. When you're mixing and matching with them, salary gets a little bit tighter just because Toronto is just so expensive, Cleveland's so expensive, and you don't have the value bats that the Cubs can give you. So what I would probably do with pitchers, and this is obviously pay on down. Don't go up to Shane Bieber, but you could go with the other pitcher in this Toronto Cleveland stack. Go with Berrios for the Blue Jays. If you think Toronto's going to do well, maybe he's going to be aligned for the win, and he has one of his ceiling games, because that's really what we're looking for, is those ceiling games. So throw in Berrios, and then you might want to go down to either Varland or Wisniewski. I know Rogers, I said, was probably going to be like a chalkier SP2. So going to either of these, younger, kind of unknown guys, but have like that strikeout potential. Going with one of them, obviously, maybe you don't go Varland facing against Cleveland. But, maybe you don't go super heavy on Cleveland. You do like 1 or 2 guys, hope for just home runs after Varland gets pulled out of the game. But still, going with Wisniewski, going with Berrios, that leaves you with 4.4K remaining for the remainder of your bats. And that's more than enough to jam in a couple of top guys. For the Toronto side of things, I'd be jamming in just kind of like their top, the top of their lineup. So guys like Springer, guys like Guerrero, Tasker Hernandez. If you want a cheaper guy from Toronto, Kevin Biggio, you could be throwing him in there. He's only 2.6K. I think he's second base eligible. So 2.6K, he's very cheap. And then on the Cleveland side of things, I would start with Jose Ramirez and Kwan. Those would be the two first guys that I would be throwing in. I honestly don't know how much that salary that leaves you remaining. I might have just given you, you're actually quite a bit. Yikes. But you got 3K remaining to fill in 2-3 more spots if you do go that route. So I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but it's GPP. I think it's a way to get different because I think the cheapies from Chicago Cubs are going to be kind of bringing this out or bringing the ownerships one way. You zig, they zag, all that stuff. Colorado, I think, is another interesting GPP play just because, like I said, the winds are blowing out in at Wrigley around like 15 miles an hour. They got some power bats in there. However, it is GPP because they really struggle outside of Coors. They really struggle against non-left-handed pitching. So GPP at best. Everybody else, Cincinnati, I think they do have a lot of cheap guys that you could be going towards in your lineup. Going up against Hudson and St. Louis, like I said, Hudson, he was almost a fade, so I don't have a whole lot of interest in him. So maybe you want to go Cincinnati with some cheap one-offs. But yeah, so that kind of covers the slate. Sorry I wasn't able to screen share the DK with you, but that kind of covers everything. So as always, good luck in your contest. No video tomorrow, so we'll see you back on Monday. And yeah, good luck.